So in this first lesson, I want to tell you a little bit about the history of artificial intelligence. And the reason why I want to do this is because it's pretty easy today for people to get confused and think the AI was something that was born maybe a couple of years ago. Actually, the first time that the two words artificial and intelligence were put together was in 1956 by these 5 guys here in the background. These people at the University of Dartmouth decided to spend one summer to start researching the hypothesis of making computers understand our world exactly like humans do. So the first thing that these guys thought, it's something that actually still works today. They realized that it was so hard, impossible basically, to tackle the problem of human intelligence as a whole. They knew that they had to start from something more specific, and they made the distinction between general and narrow AI, where general AI is something that resembles 100% of human intelligence. So an AI that could do anything that a human can do, a general form of intelligence. On the other hand, a narrow AI is some form of artificial intelligence that can do just one simple thing. It can, for instance, recognize objects or answer questions or anything. It could even be something that can cure cancer. That would be an AI that can do just one little thing, make a diagnosis for cancer, but still wouldn't be a general AI, even though it would be extremely valuable. I think we can all agree on that. So these guys knew that they had to focus on narrow AIs. And notice how, if this is general AI, you could have a bunch of different forms of narrow AIs. So again, little pieces of artificial intelligence can solve different problems. They needed to find one of these problems to start with. And the first problem they picked was translation, from English to Russian and from Russian to English. It may seem weird to you, but if you think about it, it makes so much sense. It was 1956, so we were in the Cold War, and they needed to convince the US government to give them money to fund their research. Unfortunately, the research they were doing didn't really bring them anywhere. And in 1966, the US government ordered to make a report, which is called the ALPAC report, to basically figure out whether their efforts and their money were well spent. And unfortunately, the report figured out that they just didn't have the right technology, the right computers, the right data to build powerful AI, and that was not really working. Therefore, the US government decided to cut funds. And there had been a period between 1966 until the early 80s where no one invested in artificial intelligence. This period is called the first AI winter. Then in the 80s, some private companies decided to give AI another chance and started to invest again in this technology by using a very specific form of AI, which they called expert systems. Let's try to figure out what an expert system is. So you take a subject matter expert, so someone who knows a lot about something. It may be a doctor, it may be a cardiologist, maybe even a structural engineer who's an expert in, let's say, building bridges. And then a software engineer starts talking with this guy and tries to understand exactly all the thoughts that this subject matter expert has when he's trying to solve a problem. For instance, if he's talking to a gastroenterologist, the gastroenterologist may make a list of all the different questions that you would ask a patient to make a diagnosis. Once they had all these conversations, the software engineer encodes the knowledge of the subject matter expert in some sort of software that's basically a list of different questions and ifs so that the software can replicate the thought process of the subject matter expert. Unfortunately, these systems didn't really work, and that led to the second AI winter, which again is a period where people lost faith in artificial intelligence. Until something changed. Specifically, we had a new piece of technology that was actually even invented a little bit in the past, but was never possible to make work, that finally enabled a lot of problems to be solved. This technology is called machine learning. Machine learning is the engine that powered the AI revolution. And in the next lesson, you are about to find out exactly how it works.